Yes, sir.
Come on.
Yes, sir.
Come on, get the pump.
Sir.
The pump, come on. The pump.
Yes,
The
sir.
pump. I'm Batman.
What's up, Squires? It's Comic King here, back with a spoiler-free manga review of Berserk, the Black Swordsman. And the Black Swordsman, that's considered to be the shortest arc within Berserk, and it is all contained within this first deluxe edition of Berserk. There are 13 of these, volume 14, with Kentaro Miura's last two tankobons that are collected will be presented within that collection, as well as, I believe, the Berserk book that kind of is an extra book within the series. It's not a story or anything, but just kind of background information within the world that he beautifully brought together. But yeah, this is the deluxe edition. The Black Swordsman is contained all within this book. It's just a beautiful hardcover, and yeah, guys, as you know from my previous videos, I absolutely love this series. It is by far, you know, I'm a nerd of all things pop culture, especially comic books, but this is by far the fastest piece of fiction and media I've gotten into within the last year, and just within anything. This is the fastest I've gotten into it, and I absolutely love it. And as I mentioned in the previous video, when I watched the animes, I saw the Golden Trilogy first, and when I started the 97 anime, I started the Black Swordsman at the same time. It is the shortest arc within the story, and you could definitely tell when you started that Kentaro Miura is definitely still figuring out what he wants Berserk to be, while at the same time also planting seeds to what will be brought through with the pinnacle of Berserk, which is the Golden Age, and by most that's considered the pinnacle and one of the highest points of the series. But there's a lot of world building in here, and you're kind of thrown into the middle of it. It's a lot of people's least favorite, just because, you know, it's more of an introduction, a prologue, if you will, a prologue to the prologue, since the Golden Age is Guts' backstory and really the origin story of the characters we've grown to love within this series. But at the same time, as you're thrown into this world, Kentaro Miura throws a bunch of, I wouldn't say Easter eggs, but he plants a shit ton of fucking seeds of what would build out the rest of the dark fantasy that we know as Berserk. And I absolutely love it. And unlike most, I mean, it's still widely popular. People still love the story. I mean, there's not, in my opinion, a bad story so far I've read in Berserk. I think it's an absolute masterpiece. It's becoming one of my, if not my favorite series I have ever read. It is already my favorite fantasy. It's considered to be a dark fantasy. But, yeah, I actually really dig the Black Swordsman. And, you know, as I'll talk more in the video, the art definitely progresses. The art is still good in this, but you know, Kentaro Miura's work and his art that we know today and how amazing it is, you know, it definitely gets better with every arc. And like I explained in my anime review of Berserk, compared to American comic books, you know, a single issue that comes out monthly or maybe twice a month, every 2 weeks, usually that one issue has one artist. Sometimes it has multiple writes, a bit more flexible, I'd say, in the comic book world. But, you know, I'd say when you have an amazing artist like Jim Lee, right? Let's pick, you know, All-Star Batman Robin by Jim Lee, Frank Miller. That book is incredibly divided, but I'm just using this book as, like, for the art, for example. Or you could pick Batman Hush or Superman for Tomorrow, you know, Jim Lee's work. Those 3 books, his art is incredibly consistent. It is phenomenal, considered some of the greatest modern American comic book art of all time, right? He's definitely a pioneer of what DC is today with its art. And it's fantastic. You know, he brought the X-Men art, kind of brought X-Men back up the game in the 90s, and became one of the, I believe is still the highest grossing issue of all time when American comic books is X-Men #1 by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee. However, the point I'm trying to make, tangent aside, is his art is very consistent, but Jim Lee's also, he's coming to say in interviews, he's going all out on those books, right? Well, you know, more in the Minsker series, or sometimes it's different books and stuff, the artist usually is very consistent, but sometimes if he's not given a break, because if you notice American comic books, sometimes we go 4 or 5 issues, same artist, maybe less, maybe more, depending on how the schedule is, right? If it's like weekly or every 2 weeks, right? There's probably going to be an artist change more frequent because the artists have to catch up and they have that quota, right? And the point I'm trying to make compared to manga is that a single American comic book issue averages around, like, I guess 18 to 24, 26 pages, but around 20 something pages, right? Manga, I'd say the chapters are maybe like six, maybe 7 pages, maybe more, sometimes even less than that. But the thing is with Kentaro Miura and some manga artists, and it's not always the case, but especially with Mr. Miura, you know, he's kind of on his own schedule, so he goes all out on his art. He goes all out with his art, and that's why his art remains consistent all the way through. And it gets better, and it progresses with every arc, chapter, page. It's amazing, right? But definitely the Black Swordsman, he's laying down the foundation, and it's definitely his building blocks. But it's still good, and I actually really dig the Black Swordsman quite a lot, and I actually loved it because, I thought the Golden Age was going to be the first story within Berserk, but it's really this. That's the second story just because I saw the anime, right? And so whenever I started the 97, even though I saw the Golden Age trilogy, 97 is definitely its own thing. It's still the same story. I knew what was eventually going to happen, where when I started the Black Swordsman at the same time I started the 97 anime, it was like a brand new story to me. I had no idea what was going to happen. I was like, oh, what? This is after the Golden Age? This is crazy. What's going to happen? I think the reason I enjoyed it so much is you're thrown in this world, and it's definitely wacky, but violent, grotesque, mature, brutal, violent, all at the same time. It's just a lot of fun. You're kind of thrown in this world, but I like it when, reveals or just information within stories is not revealed to you all at once. That's just a common misconception with fiction, I'd say, entertainment and media today, is that I feel like the general populace and most, the fandom, everyone wants these answers now. It has to be now. It has to be answered now. Or if you're watching a movie, it's got to be now. What's going to happen? Blah, 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 blah. But sometimes movies leave it ambiguous, and a lot of horror movies do that, a lot of thrillers. Sometimes, especially like, movies that make you think, high intense science fiction, like a lot of Christopher Nolan movies, for example, Kubrick, stuff like that. It leaves the audience, figuring it out on their own much more. Their imagination definitely plays a key part in that. And I like it when it doesn't answer everything right away, because it leads you to it keeps you reading. It keeps you intrigued, right? I feel like if you got it right away, you're like, oh, okay, I'm done. Or like, you're thrown in this world with a Black Swordsman, and, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what this is. They're talking about all these things. And then eventually, once you get to the Golden Age, you start to figure stuff out. It all comes to fruition, when it gets to the Eclipse and the Golden Age. It's just awesome. It's badass. I absolutely love it. It's just very smart. Miura knew what he was doing, and he was definitely playing the long game, because Berserk is by far, from what I've read, definitely a long game. Guts, whenever you read the Black Swordsman, you don't know if he's almost portrayed as the antagonist, right? Since you don't know as much when you start off the series, he comes across, he's definitely a fucking asshole. He's a prick to a lot of the characters. To Puck, who is very compassionate. Oh my god, I love Puck, especially once you get to the Conviction arc. I think he's absolutely hilarious, adorable. I absolutely love him. And he's fantastic. But, and you like Guts, but he's not quite a likable character at the beginning of Berserk. He's a badass, and you can definitely tell Miura started off with that hard-edged, like, gritty, almost, I guess you could say, gothic goth, something like that, along those edgy, this kind of guy and his, edge and wits at the very edge of, his revenge quest for revenge and his determination. But you don't really like him at first, and you're like, man, this guy's a fucking asshole. Just the shit he says to people, and he's kind of like, what did this guy have to go through in order to become like this, right? And it's just the way, I won't, Berserk's been out for a long time, but I'm going to make, I'm going to have a separate spoiler reviews with my sister once she's caught up and finished certain stories within the series. We'll talk about it more in detail. But, I don't want to spoil anything for y'all. If you haven't picked up the book, definitely start with the manga. It's fantastic. But, Guts, once you find out what happened, the backstory, the way it plays out, you definitely understand. And it just makes you love these characters so much more. The villain in Alrighty, Squires, as you can see, this is the Deluxe Edition Volume 1. I'm going to show you all a little bit of the art, about it, to avoid gratuitous stuff that, you know, Berserk's kind of known for. I'm going to skip forward and make sure I don't reveal anything too crazy. But I just want to show the progression of art within the series that Kentaro provided for us. And it's fantastic. As you can see, it's more basic, kind of starting out, but instantly iconic. This is some of the most famous parts of the manga. They adapted in the anime, especially in the 97, especially this panel right here. Just absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. And the deluxe editions have a matte paper finish. It's really good, bigger format, and the paper itself is the blacks and whites are brought out more than the traditional paperback. Right. Going through here, I want to make sure I don't spoil anything for y'all. Just want to give you all a little taste for the art. It's absolutely stunning. Oh yeah, beautiful. Just a very, very beautiful book. The main Black Swordsman arc, he's fantastic. You know, he's definitely gross, grotesque monster. It's just a very fun read. It gets crazy. The action is phenomenal. I absolutely love the Black Swordsman arc. Is it my favorite so far arc? Well, you know, of course not, because it gets way better. But I think in my personal humble opinion, I think it is very underrated compared to the rest of the stories within Berserk. But yeah, it definitely gets a pump. Highly recommend. Check it out. Comic King sign off. Don't forget to like and subscribe and get the pump.